Hello, and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. I'm Tootight Lautrec, and here we are again in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainder section of an unnamed local library, which may or may not have some lazy little lions on the steps just watching the wonders of the world go by and waiting for you to stop by and say hello. Hello. Today we're going to be looking at Sonnet 25, which, after Sonnet 24, this is a tremendous relief. It's a comparatively straightforward sonnet about love that blooms like a marigold under the new summer sun. And how nice is that? It's not that there are no problems at all in Sonnet 25, it's just that the problems that we do encounter are rather easily surmounted. In particular, the biggest problem in here is that in line 9, the last word of line 9 is, in the quarto version, listed as worth. And the last word of line 11, which should be the rhyming line, is quite. So worth and quite, as you can guess, do not rhyme. And we can't blame this on the great vowel shift. The great vowel shift. No, we'll have to figure out some other reason why it is the way that it is. As a result of this, though, most editors change the word worth in line 9 to the word either fight or might. Or less frequently, they'll change the word quite in line 11 to forth so that it rhymes with worth. And of this second emendation, I am vigorously opposed because if we'll just look at it, raised quite is so much better than raised forth. And when we look at the poem, we'll see that in the way that they're talking about warriors who are cut down in their prime, and the Q with the hard T at the end is much more almost onomatopoeic. With the raised quite, it's like the zip of the sword, and the Q and the T are sort of the plop of the head as it rolls along down the ditches. So I believe that raised quite should be kept, and we must change worth either to might or to fight. Now, as I say, different editors have different takes on this. Don Patterson, Berto, and Barnett, I think, in the Signet Classics, go for might in line 9. But Stephen Booth, the Penguin version, and Helen Vendler, and George Lyman Kittredge, who I quite respect, go for fight. And Don Patterson actually objects to the alliteration of line 9, famoused for fight, but in fact, Stephen Booth argues for the fact that famoused for fight sounds better. And for the record, Tootight Lautrec also feels that famoused for fight is much better too, because of the zipping of the swords again. It's very onomatopoeic of a sword fight. So I'm going to read it, and I'm not going to read this version, which is the Signet Classic, because, as I just said, I don't care for the editorial replacement of worth with might. So I'll stick with the Penguin. Sonnet 25. Let those who are in favor with their stars of public honor and proud titles boast, whilst I, whom fortune of such triumph bars unlooked for joy, in that I honor most. Great princes' favorites their fair leaves spread, but as the marigold at the sun's eye, and in themselves their pride lies buried. For at a frown they in their glory die. The painful warrior famoused for fight, after 1,000 victories once foiled, is from the book of honor raised quite, and all the rest forgot for which he toiled. Then happy I that love and am beloved, where I may not remove nor be removed. So I said beloved, but it should be beloved and removed. All right, so just going through it, basically it's the whole, let those who are in favor with their stars, those that the fortune looks upon with favor, who are in favor with their stars of public honor and proud titles, boast, whilst I, whom fortune of such triumph bars, I don't have those kinds of fortunes, I have no such kinds of triumphs. Unlooked for, this bars the unlooked for joys that I honor most. So I'm just a poor peasant. I'm just a poor peasant. I'm not a king. I'm not a queen. Well, says the poet. I'm nobody special. I'm just a lowly old person, and I can't claim all these high titles. And in line 4, joy could be a noun, could be a verb. I consider it a noun, unlooked for joy, because fortune of such triumph, of those triumphs, bars unlooked for joy in that I honor most. So I'm looking for a different kind of joy. Great princes' favorites, their fair leaves spread, but as the marigold at the sun's eye, and in themselves their pride lies buried, for at a frown they in their glory die. So princes have favorites all through the land who, you know, the prince looks upon one or two of his favorites with favor, and oh, they're blooming like the marigold under the sun. But once the eye goes elsewhere and they're no longer favored, they're in the doghouse. That's not going to happen with me to you, because I'm looking at you and I'm just a lowly serf, and I'm going to love you forever, is the implication anyway. And extending this from princes to other types of people, warriors, people who are successful in battle, the third quatrain, the painful warrior, famoused for fight. So a warrior who's strong and brilliant and has many battles that he's won and has made himself famous as a result of this. The painful warrior, famoused for fight, after 1,000 victories, he's won thousands of fights, once foiled, is from the book of honor raised quite. So, yeah, you're on the battlefield, you have 1,000 victories behind you, you're famous, you meet one battle where you don't fare so well, in fact, you are raised quite, your head's plopped off and rolls into the ditch, and what's all that going to do you now? Nothing. You're done. That's it. Happy, good for you, you have all those things behind you, but now you're dead, won't make any difference. And all the rest forgot for which he toiled. Everything that you've done doesn't matter, because now you're dead and we're going to forget you. Then happy I, here's the couplet, happy I that love and am beloved. Happy I that love and am beloved, where I may not remove nor be removed. So I love you, you love me, I'm sure of it, I'm not going anywhere, you're not going anywhere, our love is solid. Boom. A nice little sonnet. Say what you will, people can be famous, they can be rich and famous. Once they're dead, it's all gone, but you and I have each other, and that's how it's going to go from this point forward. A very lovely, lovely little sonnet. Now, as I was saying, this couplet, beloved and removed, again, does not rhyme completely fully, at least in my American English. But so we could blame it on the great vowel shift, or we could consider, if you've ever listened closely to a Liverpudlian speaking, their O's have kind of the oo in them. And so if you listen to someone like Paul Hollywood from the Great British Bake Off, or my favorite Beatle, Ringo Starr, you'll hear how beloved and removed perhaps could rhyme. So I'm not counting out that they don't rhyme. I'm just saying that to my American ear, it's not a complete rhyme. But I do think that if it were an English speaker's rhyme, or particularly a Liverpudlian, it would sound quite nice. And 400 years ago in London, who knows what types of, or Stratford-on-Avon even, how they spoke. So I'm not going to quibble too much with that. But I will say that if you're going to be reading the sonnets out loud, it's best to affect a nice strong Scouser accent. My Scouser, according to Sergio, isn't what it used to be, so I won't be affecting any Scouser accent. I'll just be reading all of the sonnets in my own little American accent. But since we're quibbling about words, there's another quibble in famousid, in line 9, the painful warrior famousid for fight. Now, my main man, Haider Edward Rawlins, of whom I did finally find a picture, who wrote the Variorum that was printed in the 1940s, and who is one of my primary sources for everything, because he collects everything that everyone's said about the sonnets, and it's a really wonderful thing. If you can get your hands on it, do, or if you can find a library that has it, hie thee hither as soon as possible to take a look in it, because it's really wonderful. But Haider Edward Rawlins quotes a certain person named Ransom from a 1938 article in World's Body, whatever that is, who says this about this famousid, the use of famousid in line 9. Shakespeare makes a verb, famousid, of an adjective, but his coinage could not give it currency, for it is not that kind of adjective. Now, I've been refused currency because I'm not that kind of a lady, but I've never heard of such abuse of an adjective before. But, you know, it takes all kinds in the world of Shakespeare scholarship. So once we go back to the word worth, there are diehards who believe that they should stick as closely to the quarto as possible, but even among those diehards, almost everyone is in agreement that the word worth is an inaccuracy in line 9. Booth supposes that in what he calls the 16th century secretary script, that the words might and worth could easily be confused, and yet he still opts for the word fight because it sounds better, famousid for fight. I suspect there may have been maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 flagons too many of mead at lunch before the typesetters went back to work, and that may account for it as well. We'll never know. So again, Haider Edward Rawlins quotes Stevens from 1780, who remarked about this whole issue of the word change for lines 9 through 12. Stevens said, "This stanza is not worth the labor that has been bestowed on it." So there you go. I've just wasted all of your time talking about this, but I find it quite interesting to see what types of changes are occurring in the sonnets that are presented to us. So do we know if, or is there any indication of whether there is a male or a female being addressed or being spoken about? Well, except for the fact that princes and warriors are masculine types of people that the narrator compares himself negatively to, we could seem to say that the narrator is male, but we have no indication of whether this is a male or a female to whom the poem is addressed. If it's taken as just a single solitary sonnet, it's quite lovely. It's got the whole idea of courtly love and brings in all those tropes and then undercuts them and says that I'm just a simple man, but I love you, and it's really quite beautiful. If it's a sonnet in a series, we have the mess of Sonnet 24 that addresses reciprocal love, but it casts doubt, Sonnet 24, on that love relationship in that couplet that says that, you know, we know not the heart, Whereas Sonnet 25 clearly states a pure and unchanging reciprocity in the couplet. Then happy I that love and am beloved. I don't know why I keep saying beloved. Then happy I that love and am beloved, where I may not remove nor be removed. I'm solid. We're here for the duration, baby. And so we have to wonder, well, what's going on in Sonnet 24 if this is taken in a series? Perhaps there could be that moment in a relationship when, once it gets going really hot and heavy physically and emotionally, where there's a moment of pause, but once the pheromone cloud dissipates, where you stand back and you say, what is this? What's going on? What is this love, or is this lust, or is this, what is happening? And is it real? Is it my imagination? Does this person feel the same way that I feel? How do I know? So there could be that dizzying confusion of new love where you just have to wonder, is it real or is it not real? But then along comes 25, and it does cement the relationship into a certainty. I love and am beloved. There we go. And it's a declaration of that reciprocity. So we know that perhaps they had a little misunderstanding in Sonnet 24, and then in 25 they come together to kiss and make up. What do you think? I think it's time to go out and join the lions. Sit on those steps, if you're not quarantined. Sit on those steps, watch the world, look at its wonders, pay attention, and spread the love whenever you can. I'm Tootight Lautrec. Until next time. Mwah.